In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this cute little mini teapot shaped doily. And to make the doily, I did use a crochet thread. This is a number 10 crochet thread. I used the Red Heart Classic crochet thread, and it's a 100% mercerized cotton. So if you'd like to learn how to make this little doily today, please join me in this tutorial and I will show you how to make it. And to make this doily, I did use a 2.25 millimeter crochet hook. Now you can use a smaller crochet hook if you want to. It's just that I wanted to make it a little bit bigger with this 2.25 millimeter crochet hook. That way you could see the stitches, because if I used like a 1.75 millimeter crochet hook or a 2.0, the stitches would have been too hard to see on the video. So you can definitely make it a little bit smaller if you want to. So you can get a perspective on the size of this doily. I'm going to place the crochet hook next to it so you can get an idea of how small the doily is. It's a really cute little mini doily. I'm going to start off with a slip knot. And then I'm going to chain 5 chains. And then I'm going to join with the slip stitch to that first chain that I did to join and form a little ring or circle. And for round 1, I'm going to work my stitches into that center circle of that little ring. Okay, so for round 1, I'm going to start with the chain 3. This chain 3 will count as a stitch. It's going to count as the first double crochet. So now I'm going to do 2 more double crochets into that center circle. Okay, so I have a chain 3 and 2 double crochets, and since that chain 3 counts as a stitch, it counts as a double crochet, I have a group of 3 double crochets now. And then I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to work 3 double crochets into the center of that circle. Okay, so I have another group of 3 double crochets. So for round 1, we're going to work 6 groups of 3 double crochets with a chain 3 in between each group of 3 double crochets. So I just worked my 3 double crochets. So now I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to work 3 more double crochets into the center circle. Then I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to work another group of 3 double crochets into that center circle. And if you need to, you can always just move them over a little bit to make more room to work more stitches into that center circle. Now you can see I have 4 groups of 3 double crochets, so I need 2 more groups of 3 double crochets for a total of 6 sets of 3. So after I do my 3 double crochets, I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to work another set of 3 double crochets. Okay, so now I'm going to chain 3. And then I just have 1 more group of 3 double crochets to work into the center circle. I'll work my 3 double crochets. And then I'm going to chain 3. And then I will join with a slip stitch to that top 3rd chain that I did when I began the round. Okay, that completes round 1. When you finish round 1, you should have 6 groups of 3 double crochets and 6 chain 3 spaces. So now we're ready to begin round 2. For round 2, I want to start my work into this first chain 3 space. So what I'm going to do is I need to slip stitch over to that chain 3 space. So I'm going to slip stitch into this double crochet and then slip stitch into the next double crochet. So slip stitch into the next 2 stitches, and then we had 3 chains here, so I'm going to slip stitch into that very first chain, then I'm going to slip stitch into that next chain. So the first 2 chains of the chain 3 space, I'm going to do a slip stitch. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 3. This chain 3 does count as a double crochet. So then into that space, I'm going to work 2 more double crochets. Okay, so that's a group of 3 double crochets. Since the first chain 3 counts as a stitch, it will count as the first double crochet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 4. So I just did 4 chains, and then I'm going to skip over these 3 double crochets here and find my next chain 3 space, and I'm going to work my stitches into that chain 3 space. I'm going to work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. So I just chained 4, and now I'm going to work 3 double crochets into the very next chain 3 space. Okay, so there's my group of 3 double crochets, and then I'm going to chain 4. And then I'm going to skip over these 3 double crochets from the previous round and find my next chain 3 space, and I'll do 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. Okay, so I just did 3 double crochets into that space. Now I'm going to chain 4. In the previous first row, we chained 3 in between the groups of 3 double crochets. For this round 2, we need to chain 4 in between the groups of 3 double crochets. So I did my 4 chains. So now find your next chain 3 space and work 3 double crochets into that space. Okay, so I just did my 3 double crochets. Now I'm going to chain 4. Find my next chain 3 space and work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. Okay, and then chain 4. So it's just a repeat all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to chain 4. Find my next chain 3 space and work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. So that is the last chain 3 space for this round. Okay, and then we're going to chain 4 chains and then join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 that we did when we began the round. And that completes round 2. When you're finished with round 2, you should have 6 groups of 3 double crochets with a chain 4 space all the way around. So we're going to have 6 sets of 3 double crochets and 6 chain 4 spaces. Okay, so now for round 3. So what we're going to do for round 3 is we don't need to slip stitch over to the chain 4 space. We're just going to begin right here where we joined, and we're going to chain 3. And then these next 2 double crochets, we will work 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. And that chain 3 does count as a double crochet. So that chain 3 is right on top of the chain 3 from the previous round. And then 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then here's your chain 4 space into that chain 4 space. I'm going to work 4 double crochets. So 4 double crochets all into the same chain 4 space. So I'm not working into the actual chains, I'm working into the chain 4 space. Okay, so there is the 4 double crochets, and you just want to space them out evenly in that chain 4 space. And then we're going to work 1 double crochet into the top of the next 3 stitches. So we're working 1 double crochet into each of the double crochets from the previous round. Okay, so that was 1 double crochet into these next 3 stitches, and then we're going to repeat this all the way around. So into the chain 4 spaces, I will work 4 double crochets, and then I will work 1 double crochet into the top of the 3 double crochets in the previous round. So 4 double crochets into this chain 4 space. Okay, so I just did 4 double crochets all into that chain 4 space, and then I'm going to work 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Okay, so I just did 1 double crochet into those last 3 stitches there, and then here's my next chain 4 space. So I'm going to do exactly what I did in the other chain 4 spaces, and all of the chain 4 spaces will be the same. I will work 4 double crochets into the chain 4 space. Okay, so I just did 4 double crochets into that chain 4 space, and then 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And then, same as before, 4 double crochets into that chain 4 space. Okay, so there's the 4 double crochets, and then 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Okay, so that was 1 double crochet into those 3 stitches there. And then here's the next chain 4 space. I will work 4 double crochets into the chain 4 space. And then I'm going to work 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And then there's 1 more chain 4 space for this round, so I will go ahead and work my 4 double crochets into that chain 4 space. Then I'm going to join with the slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 that I did when I began the round. And that completes round 3. For round 4, we're going to be forming the spout for the tea kettle and the handle. Okay, so we're going to start with a chain 3. Okay, so round 4 starts with a chain 3, and then I'm going to work 1 double crochet into the next 9 stitches. So here's the chain 3 that's on top of that chain 3 from the previous round. So starting in the next stitch, which is going to be the double crochet after the chain 3 from the previous round. So we're going to start there and then do 9 double crochets, one in the, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet into that one. Because after we do the chain 3, we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next 9 stitches. So that's 1, so we need 8 more. So we're just working 1 double crochet in each of these stitches. Okay, so just to recap what I just did for round 4, I started with the chain 3, and then I worked 1 double crochet into the next 9 stitches. So if you count that chain 3 as a double crochet, then you'll have 10 double crochets. So you have 10 stitches, the chain 3, and then 9 more double crochets. And if you want, you can, put a stitch marker here if you want to mark where you began. But since it's a chain 3, it's kind of tall, so you can kind of see it. But if it's easier for you, you can definitely put a stitch marker into the top of that chain 3 so you know where round 4 began. Okay, the very next stitch will have 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Okay, so that one had 2 single crochets. And then into the next 3 stitches, they will have 1 single crochet each. This next stitch is going to have 2 stitches. It will have a half double crochet and a double crochet into the same stitch. So a half double crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then you'll have 3 loops on your hook for the half double crochet, yarn over and pull through all 3, and that's your half double crochet. And then we're going to work a double crochet into that same stitch where I just did the half double crochet. Okay, so that stitch had 2 stitches, a half double crochet and a double crochet. And then into the next 2 stitches, I'm going to work 1 stitch each. The next 2 stitches will have 1 double crochet. Okay, so there's 1 double crochet in that stitch. The next stitch also a double crochet. Okay, so that begins the base for the T-spout. Now I'm going to work the T-spout here. For the T-spout, I'm going to chain 9 chains. Okay, so I have my 9 chains now. I'm going to skip the first chain closest to the hook. Into the next chain, I'm going to do a single crochet. And then into the very next chain, I'm going to work 2 single crochets into that same stitch. So there's 1 and then 2. So that one had 2 single crochets, not just 1. And then the next stitch, I'm going to work a half double crochet and a double crochet into that same stitch. So the first stitch after we skip the first chain, closest from the hook, the next stitch was a single crochet. Then the next chain we worked 2 single crochets into the same chain, and then the next chain we worked 2 stitches into that chain. That was a half double crochet and a double crochet. And then I'm going to work 1 double crochet into the next 5 stitches, working my way back towards the base of the spout. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and my 5th chain. Alright, so there is the spout of the tea kettle. And then you see where we started here, and then you can see we're going to join with the slip stitch to that same one where we did the last double crochet before we did the chains. So join with the slip stitch right there in the bottom where that, right into that same stitch where we did that last double crochet before we did the chains. So I'm joining with a slip stitch there. And there is the spout for your tea kettle. Okay, and there's the spout for the tea kettle now. So now we're going to work this way, and we're going to do the top of our tea kettle, work around, and then we'll do the handle. And then into the next 4 stitches, I'm going to work 1 single crochet each. Okay, and then this very next stitch, I'm going to work 2 single crochets into the same stitch. The very next stitch, I'm going to work 1 half double crochet. And then I'm going to work 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Okay, and this is where you should end. Do you see this chain 4 space? These are the 4 double crochets that are within that chain 4 space in the previous round 3. Your double crochet should end after that second one, so you should have 2 more double crochets in that chain 4 space. So after you do your T-spout, you work your single crochets, then your half double crochet, and then the double crochets, the 3 that I just did. Okay, and then we're going to work the little top knob for our tea kettle. I wanted to come up with a way to work this little mini teapot doily without having to, cut the yarn and fasten off and reattach to make the little spout and the little top and the handle. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that little top knob. So I'm going to show you how to do that little top knob for the lid of a tea kettle without having to fasten off again. And if you find it tricky, you can definitely, go all the way around without doing this next step and just, continue without doing this next step if you find it tricky. But it's really easy. I'll show you how to do it. And if it doesn't come out right for you, you can definitely, work without doing that, fasten off, and then create it if you wanted to. But I think this is very easy. I'm going to show you how to do it, because I'm all about not having to cut the yarn and fasten off over and over again to make it, make something whenever possible. Okay, and then we're going to chain 3. And then what I'm going to do is into the top of this double crochet, I'm going to work 2 double crochets. So if you look at the stitch, I'm going to insert my hook right through the center of the top of the double crochet. Because if you look at it, you have a front loop and a back loop. So I'm going to insert my hook right through the center of the front loop and the back loop. That's the double crochet I just worked before I did the chain 3. So I'm going to insert my hook into the center of the double crochet of the top there between the front and the back loop. And then you see this little stitch on the side. I'm just going to insert it right through there as well. That's how I'm going to work my double crochets, right into that. So I'm going to go ahead. There's my chain 3. I'm going to yarn over and then work my double crochet into the top of the double crochet. So I'm going to insert my hook into the top of the double crochet right in between the front and the back loop. And then I'm just going to insert it right to that stitch there of the double crochet. And then I'm going to work 2 double crochets. So here's the first double crochet that I'm going to work. And then I'm going to work another double crochet into that same space at the top of the double crochet. Now I'm going to do my second one. And then I'm going to chain 2. You can do a chain 3, but I like to do a chain 2 because I think it looks a little nicer. Because if you do a chain 3 and you have a loose tension, then you'll get a little bit of a gap. So I just do 2 chains. And then I'm going to insert my hook into that same space where I just worked the 2 double crochets, which is the top of the double crochet. And I'm going to do a slip stitch. So there is the knob at the top of my tea kettle. And then I'm going to work 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Next stitch, I'm going to work a half double crochet. So for a half double crochet, you do yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. And that is your half double crochet. The next stitch will have 2 stitches. I'm going to work 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So this stitch, 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And that's exactly what we did over here, because we wanted to match what we did before we worked the knob. So that's what we did over here. We started with after we did the single crochets, I did 2 single crochets into the same stitch, then a half double crochet into the next, then 1 double crochet into 3 stitches. We worked the knob, then I did 3 double crochets, then a half double crochet, and then 2 single crochets. So that is exactly what I did on this side. And then I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. Okay, so I just worked 1 single crochet into 4 stitches, and that 4th single crochet should end up in the last double crochet of the 4 double crochets that I worked in the chain 4 space of the previous row. Because in the previous row I did 4 double crochets into the chain 4 space, so that last single crochet of the 4 single crochets should, so that last single crochet of the 4 single crochets that I just did should be worked in the top of the 4th double crochet that was worked in the chain 4 space. And then you'll see these next 3 double crochets, there was 1 double crochet into that group of 3 double crochets. So that's where you should end, just before that set of 3 double crochets worked into that group of 3 double crochets of the previous round. So now we're going to work the handle for the tea kettle. So to work the handle, I'm going to chain 8 chains. Okay, so I just worked 8 chains. Then I'm going to skip 3 stitches. So I'm going to skip the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then into the 4th stitch. After skipping 3 stitches, I'm going to do a single crochet. So this is how it should look so far. I did a chain 8, and then I did a single crochet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to churn my work. Okay, so turn it over to the back side of the work. So this was the front side. So I'm going to turn it over, and now you should have the back of your work facing up. So now when you turn it over, you should see that the top of the tea kettle will be to the left and the bottom will be to the right. So that's how it should look if you flipped it over. Okay, so now that I've turned it over to the back side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now work 12 single crochets into that chain 8 space for the handle. Okay, so I've worked 12 single crochets, and I'm just going to kind of stretch them out to space them evenly. Now that I have my 12 single crochets, I'm going to insert my hook into this next stitch right here after the chain 8 space. I'm going to insert my hook into this stitch, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to turn my work over to the right side again. Okay, so we're still on the back side of the work. I just did a slip stitch after working my 12 single crochets, so I'm going to turn it to the front of my work now. And then I'm going to work a slip stitch into each of those single crochets that I just did in the chain 8 space for the handle, because we need to work our way back here to finish the rest of the tea kettle. So we're almost done. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a slip stitch in each one of these chains. Okay, so now I'm going to do my slip stitches, working my way back to the bottom of the tea kettle. So I'm working a slip stitch into each of these single crochets of the handle, working my way back to the bottom of the tea kettle so we can finish. And I'm just making sure that I don't work the slip stitches too tightly, because I don't want my handle to curl up or anything. And then I'm going to do a single crochet into this very stitch after. So then into this stitch, I'm going to work a single crochet. And then I just have 2 more stitches to work here. So the next stitch, I'm going to work 2 stitches. I'm going to work 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So I'm working 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And then this next stitch here, I will work a half double crochet. So I just did a half double crochet into that stitch. And then I'm going to join with the slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 that I did when I began the round. And that completes my mini teapot doily. How cute is that? So now all that's left to do is to go ahead and cut the crochet thread and fasten off. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just yarn over with that tail and just pull it through that stitch, give it a tug to fasten off, and then I just need to weave in the tails. And that completes my mini teapot shaped doily. And then you can block your little doily, and you can use some starch to stiffen the doily if you want to as well. So I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial today on how to make this really cute mini teapot shaped doily. And I want to thank you for watching and have a great day.